Arin was born in a forgotten town, where ambition was a luxury and survival was the daily goal. He didn't grow up with dreams on posters or books filled with hope. He grew up with silence, dust, and the sound of his mother holding in her tears each night. The kind of place where dreams are learned to be hidden, not because they are wrong but because they are heavy. He wore shoes with holes, carried a school bag stitched too many times, and walked kilometers to a school that barely had walls. But even through all of that, Arin had one thing: fire. Not the kind that burns wild, but the kind that stays quietly lit inside the chest. A reason to fight. A reason to keep walking. He studied under candlelight while others slept. He listened to online lectures through a broken speaker, using borrowed internet from a neighbor's window. It wasn't fair, but he didn't care. He believed in something bigger. A day when his mother wouldn't have to count coins. A day when his little sister could dream without limits. But one evening, it all felt too much. The weight of expectations, the fear of failure, the exhaustion of trying to be strong every single day. He stared at his phone screen, unread messages piling up. No motivation left. No words. Just silence. This wasn't laziness. This was the moment many don't talk about. Hitting the wall. It's not always pain that breaks you. Sometimes it's the stillness. The emptiness. The haunting feeling that you've given everything and still feel stuck. That's what Arin felt. He wasn't crying. He wasn't angry. He just couldn't feel anything anymore. He wondered, what's the point? He didn't want to quit forever. He just wanted to rest. Just for a day. But deep down, he feared that resting would turn into stopping. And stopping would turn into disappearing. That's what the wall does. It doesn't scream at you. It whispers. It makes you doubt the path you once believed in. It makes you forget how far you've already come. But somewhere in that silence, buried beneath fatigue and fear, was a tiny voice. It didn't shout. It didn't rush. It just said, "You've made it this far. Please don't stop now." When you're at your lowest, the loudest voices aren't from outside. They're from within. And they don't always scream. They whisper. You're not enough. You're wasting your time. Everyone's moving ahead. But you're still stuck. That night, Arin lay on the floor, not from weakness, but because he didn't know where else to go. He wasn't hurt physically, but he was wounded in a place no one could see. His heart was heavy. His spirit tired. His thoughts loud. He began to doubt everything he once believed. Maybe this fight is pointless. Maybe I'm chasing something that was never meant for me. Even his own reflection in the mirror began to feel like a stranger. Someone who tried and failed. That's what these voices do. They don't just attack your goals. They attack your identity. They don't say, "That didn't work." They say, "You don't work." And if you're not careful, you start to believe them. But here's the truth. Our minds lie when they're tired. Just like a body that needs rest, a spirit that's drained becomes vulnerable to false thoughts. Not because you're weak, but because you've been strong for too long. And deep inside Arin's chaos, one tiny voice pushed back. Quiet, but steady. Not a scream, just a whisper. This is pain, yes. But it's not the end. Breathe. Just breathe. So he sat up. No music. No motivation video. Just him. Sitting. Breathing. Being. The storm hadn't passed. But for the first time in days he realized, I'm still here. Maybe that's where real strength is born. Not from shouting, not from winning, but from surviving the darkest night and still choosing to rise. Because the voices don't define you. Your choice does. The morning light crawled across the room, brushing against the wall, the books, and Arin's tired face. As his eyes adjusted, they landed on something familiar. A dusty photo frame he hadn't touched in months. It was a picture of his mother, holding him as a baby. She looked peaceful. Tired, yes, but proud. That kind of tired only a mother understands. The kind that doesn't complain, because love has no receipt. Memories hit like waves. The way she used to sneak a piece of fruit into his lunchbox when there wasn't enough for everyone. The time she smiled, even when her eyes looked empty. The sacrifices she never mentioned. In that moment, he didn't just remember her. He remembered why he started. His chest ached, not from failure, but from forgetting. He'd been so caught in surviving that he had stopped feeling. And when you forget why you started, it's easy to believe that nothing matters. But remembering changes everything. She never asked for rewards. She never said, fight for me. But she lived every day like someone was worth fighting for. And that someone was Arin. He realized something. I'm not just doing this for me. I'm doing it for her courage, her pain, her faith. He stood up. Slowly. The weight was still there. But something had shifted. This wasn't about chasing a perfect life anymore. It was about honoring the struggle. His. Hers. Everyone who ever dared to believe in him. He didn't wipe away all his pain. He didn't suddenly become fearless. But he now walked with remembrance. And when your reason is real, even pain becomes fuel. He sat down at his desk, not to win, but to keep his word. He wrote 3 words at the top of his notebook. For my mother. And below it, for more. I will not stop. It wasn't a battle cry. It was a promise. Sometimes the most powerful moments are not loud. They're quiet, raw, and personal. A memory. A photo. A whisper from yesterday that says, get back up. I believe in you. The desk was the same. The broken chair. The old notebook. The cheap pen that barely worked. But something inside Arin was different now. He wasn't chasing glory. He was returning to his promise. The promise not to win, but not to quit. His hands trembled as he picked up the pen. Not from fear, but from knowing this road would be slow. He wrote again. Reviewed old lessons. Failed again. Learned again. Nothing magical happened. He didn't go viral. No sudden call. No perfect opportunity. Just a new habit. Small, steady, stubborn. He woke up. He worked. He rested. Then repeated. Some days were quiet victories. He solved a difficult question. He read 10 pages. Other days were hard. Everything felt stuck. But he kept moving. Because now, he wasn't chasing speed. He was chasing momentum. One afternoon, an email arrived. A small scholarship. Not a dream university. Not a grand offer. But it was real. It was earned. He stared at the screen, blinking. Someone out there believed in me. That moment changed something. Not the world around him, but the world inside him. He was no longer the boy waiting for permission to try. He was already becoming. Momentum isn't loud. It doesn't come with applause or fireworks. It comes quietly, through sweat, silence, and repetition. It's built in the days no one sees. This was the climb. Not a sprint. Not a leap. Just one more step. Then another. And another. And slowly, the mountain began to shift beneath his feet. Time moved. Quietly, like it always does. Seasons changed. People came and went. And the boy who once sat in silence, wondering if he should quit, was now a man. Helping others not to. Arin didn't become a millionaire. He didn't build an empire. But he built something more valuable. A space for young dreamers. He returned to his old school, now as a teacher, a mentor, a quiet symbol of what's possible. He didn't teach formulas or fame. He taught stories. About failure. About fatigue. About fighting alone. His students didn't just listen. They felt every word. Because they saw it in his eyes. I was you once. He reminded them that strength isn't loud. It's not about who speaks the most or walks the fastest. Sometimes, the strongest one is the quietest in the room, because they've carried more than they ever said. One day, a student asked, "Sir, how did you keep going?" He looked out the window for a moment before replying, "Because I made a promise. And because I came too far to turn back." He didn't pretend to be perfect. He told them the truth. Some dreams take years. Some dreams change. But what matters is that you don't disappear from your own life. You keep walking. Even when the light is dim. His story wasn't about being a hero. It was about being human. With doubt, with delay, with detours. But also with grit. With reasons. With love that never gave up. And in every student who dares to believe in themselves, he sees himself. The tired boy. The quiet fighter. The one who almost gave up. But didn't. Maybe this story was about Arin. But maybe it was also about you. Because somewhere in some quiet room, there's someone like you. Tired, trying, and wondering. Is it still worth it? You've walked roads no one applauded. You've fought battles no one even saw. You've kept showing up, even when your heart whispered, "Just stay in bed." That's not weakness. That's courage in its purest form. And maybe you haven't reached the peak yet. Maybe everything still feels slow. But the truth is, just by standing today, you've already broken 1,000 patterns that once held you down. This chapter is yours. No one else will live it for you. And no one else can define what progress looks like for you. Sometimes progress is building an empire. Sometimes, it's just getting out of bed and breathing deeply. You don't have to be loud. You don't have to be famous. You just have to be honest with yourself. Keep going. Not because it's easy, but because something inside you knows. I've come too far to stop now. Let this be your reminder. Not from a stranger, but from someone who understands pain, pause, and perseverance. You're not broken. You're becoming. So if no one told you this lately, hear it now. I'm proud of you. You matter. And your story is not done yet. Not even close. This is the voice that will stay with you. Not to push, but to remind. That even in silence, even in slow progress, You are still moving. You are still here. And as long as you're still here, you're still winning. If this story meant something to you, share it with someone who's quietly fighting too. Subscribe to Voice of Nara. This is where quiet souls are reminded they are never alone.